everyone can see the slide. And we are going to look at this paper later, so you don't have to worry about it. Just let's see the slide first. Okay. Oh, no. I'm going to introduce what kind of thing we are dealing with. We study in this class. And I understand this class is like a mixture of international students, exchange students, and also Kyoto University students, most of who are Japanese people. So your basic knowledge about history of Japan or geography of Japan may be so different, person to person. So I start with very basic introduction about Kyoto and Japan and things like that. And in the beginning, probably Kyoto University student will feel like, oh, it's too easy, we don't have to listen to it. But you cannot be sleeping, because Kyoto University students, you are responsible to answer any questions that exchange student may want to ask. All right? So you have to be sure you know everything about history of Japan, geography and culture. I'm kidding. But many of you may be an engineering student or agriculture student, science student, and you may not study history of Japan at all in high school, right? So let's take a look at the basic things together. Okay? I hope you know where it is. And starting from this basic, Kyoto is, where the Kyoto is. Kyoto is in Kansai area, right? And if you are interested in Tokyo, it's about 500 kilometers away. And inside the Kansai area, Kyoto, you can see, I'm sorry, I forgot the pointing thing. Kyoto, you can see Kyoto, and so just keep in mind that where the Kobe, Osaka, Nara, and other cities are. And Kansai Airport, I'm sure many of you international students came to Kyoto via Kansai Airport, right? Did you hear the news that Kansai Airport may disappear in the future? I don't know, I'm not sure, but the Ministry of Prime Minister of Construction and Transportation announced that he wanted to put more money to Tokyo Airport. Then the governor of Osaka got upset, and if you said that, we don't want to pay more tax money to the Kansai Airport and things like that going on. I just heard the news yesterday. So in worst case, I don't know if it's worse or not. Did you like Kansai Airport? Okay, then let's pray it doesn't disappear. I personally like Itami Airport. It's closer to Kyoto and closer to my house. And I live in Osaka, by the way. Okay, anyway. Yeah. Okay, and let's take a look at the structure of Kyoto City. And there's a river, Kamo River, and it changes name. The river changes name, when it goes to different places. But basically, we have a main, like a stream kind of river, and the water came from Lake Biwa and flowing into Osaka Bay. And if you, I think some of you are from European countries, right? And if you think of some historical old cities in Europe, many cities are built along the river. Think about like Rome, or Berlin, or many. I can't say everything, but many cities, and also the big cities in China. They are all built along the riverside. And maybe you want to think about why it happened that way. Japan has some exception. In Japan, many cities were built by the ocean. Well, just because we didn't have much choice, we don't have much inland. Kyoto is an exceptional example. Kyoto, Osaka is small, but Osaka used to be just the ocean, water, and we did make the artificial land. But Kyoto, Nara, and maybe Tokyo area is like a few exceptional flat land in Japan. So that's why we have the cities in those places. But in China and in Europe and many places, people like to live along the river and where the flat land is. And also, river is important for transportation and water resource and food and everything, right? So I think the river is like a backbone of the city. And in modern time, we also built a lot of other things, like a JR, a railway that comes from, goes to Tokyo area or goes to Osaka, Kobe area. And JR Kyoto station is a kind of south end of the city. And we also have private railway companies, right? And I put two examples. Can you tell which one is Hankyu and which one is Keihan? If you can tell which one is Keihan, you know something about Kyoto. Okay, Keihan, the Machiyanagi station, Shijokawara Machi. Right? But both goes to Osaka, right? And we also have subway for in city use. Karasuma line goes to north south, and Tozai line. Tozai means east west. Okay. And we also have freeway or expressway. In Japan, the road is not free yet. Well, with the new government, it could be free. You know, they said they are going to make the freeway expressway free, but not at this point. At this moment, it's very expensive now. But anyway, we have expressway for automobiles. And you know, in the center area is like a commercial center, and around the commercial center we have residential area. And once again, if we compare to the old cities in China or Europe, you know, usually old historical downtown is in the center, and the new development happens around, right? In this case, these two circles means different things. You know, both are historical, because in Kyoto, old temples and old villas and old historical things happened along the hillside too. So the new development is like really outside this map. So new developments going on around here in the south of Kyoto Station or outside Kyoto City, like Osaka Prefecture or Shiga Prefecture. Okay? And we are here. Okay? And if you look at the history, you know, how the Kyoto was built in ancient time, it started in 794, and somebody planned this city. Somebody chose this, I mean, it's probably emperor. Emperor chose this site and planned the city with city planning. It's also an exceptional case for Japan, because if you think about Tokyo and other cities, there's no city planning. You know, almost no city planning. You know, the city grew automatically or by people. But Kyoto and Nara and some other cities like Nagoya, Sapporo in Hokkaido, there's a few cities in Japan were planned, you know, completely by drawing or by professionals. Right? And in this case, Kyoto's case, it was done long time ago, like 1,200 years ago. But there was a good teacher. Yeah, we learned those city planning from Chinese people. Okay, in China there was a longer history and idea of city planning, since long time ago, and we learned that this kind of city planning from Chinese people under the idea of feng shui. You know feng shui? If there are any Chinese people or Taiwanese people, and you may know feng shui, okay? Or maybe people from Hong Kong, you know a lot about these things. And what's happening here is, according to that feng shui idea, on the east we have to have a river, and on the west we have to have a road, and on the south we have to have a pond or lake. And in this Kyoto's case, there used to be big lake here, but we made the artificial land for the development. But it used to be a lake, okay? And we should have mountains on the north side. So ancient Chinese people thought this kind of site is ideal to live in. Okay? And in today's lecture, I'm going to give you a lot of questions. I think totally 10 questions or something, and for you to think about. And here's the first one. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to show you the capital. The capital is important. Okay, question one is, why do you think this kind of city planning was good? I think it is still good, but why ancient Chinese people and also Japanese people thought this kind of city was good. Why don't you talk to your neighbor for a little bit, discuss and think about. Well, does anybody already have an answer?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
I think to have a lowland in the south will have a better sunshine.
I think so too. Right. Yeah. I think it's a biggest reason. Yeah. You know, with this kind of site, the slope goes from north down to south, right? So you always have good sunshine. It's good for agriculture and good for people's health and everything, right? Yeah. And there may be more complicated ideas, you know, by very smart ancient Chinese people, but I don't know much. But I'm sure that the sunshine thing is the biggest reason, right? And if I understand correctly, these names here are the ancient Chinese god, right? Name of the god for Chinese people, right? Anyway. So in this lecture, we deal with a lot of traditional things, you know, traditional beliefs and religion and things like that. But I hope you to, you know, think about, you know, those things scientifically, you know. I believe there must be some scientific reason in everything. Okay, let's take a look at this example of the capital. The left one is ancient Kyoto capital, and the right one is its model, the Chinese capital. You know, in Kyoto people imitated or copied the city plan of Chinese ancient capital. Okay, and you can see they are very similar, right? Almost same city plan, like a square and a gridded street and imperial palace on the north end and everything. But we also have to think. I'd like to think about the difference. You know, there are a lot of similarities, right? But there are also differences, and I'd like to point out one significant difference between these two. Can you tell something? Well, these drawings are not to scale, so I'm not asking you to compare the size. Of course, Chinese capital is much bigger, right? I don't have to explain that. No, I don't have to explain why, right? And number of streets doesn't matter too, because in Kyoto, it used to be like this, and the people made those smaller streets later, so it's not a big difference. Probably in Chinese cities, there must be smaller street inside these big streets. It's just not in this drawing, but there are other significant difference. Can you find? Somebody can find? Excuse me? Yeah, that's true, but it's not very significant. Probably it just happened that way because of the geography. But there is bigger difference. There is something in Chinese plan which is missing in Japanese plan. Yes, gate, thank you. In Chinese cities, or I think in any Chinese cities or European cities, there were gates. I mean, the city is usually enclosed. And there are gates, you know, here and there, so you can control the traffic, right? You know, only good people can come inside. Okay? But in Kyoto case, they didn't make the wall. You know, well, just one time in history, somebody made the wall outside around Kyoto in the big war time. But Kyoto people, citizens, didn't like that idea and broke the wall. Right. And this must be a difficult question, but does anybody guess? Can anybody guess why Japanese people didn't make a wall? This is my second question. Why? I think walls and gates are very important to maintain the city, but why Kyoto people or Nara people in any cities in Japan, you can't find the walls? Can you guess why? Anyone? Yes?
Maybe because they were planning the city to become bigger, so...
I see. Well, in ancient time, it wasn't necessary, I think. And anyway, it would be stopped by mountains. It cannot grow anyway.
Yeah, maybe that's the reason that people thought it was necessary, because there are mountains and rivers.
Right.
And
probably, we came to the conclusion, right? There are mountains, surrounding mountains, so it's not very, it wasn't necessary to build an artificial wall. But in China's case, there was also surrounding mountains because we built a city according to the same idea of a north mountain and east-west mountain and stuff. But how about the level of security? Required level of security.
Well,
Yes.
well, Japan obviously is an island, so it has already kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
security, so
yeah.
it has control.
I think that's the
Natural
biggest
control.
reason, right? Yeah,
And
I think
China, well, it used to have many.
exactly.
fights.
Yeah, China has to worry about the enemies, attacking. But in Japan, in history, Japan used to be very, very safe. Before they invented the atomic bomb and airplane and stuff like that, it used to be very safe. Just one time in history, I think Mongolian people tried to attack Japan, but they weren't successful because of the the typhoon and stuff. So in Japan, we didn't have to worry about defense too much. Just we needed to define where is the city, but defense was not very important. Okay. Yeah, let's take a look at the brief history. It's really brief, a historical overview. I said in Japanese, Gaiko Shoshi, that means quick history, and Gairyaku overview, because I'm trying to talk about from 17th century BC to 21st century in one page, so it's really rough idea. And I'm not historian. I didn't study history seriously. I only studied history related to architecture and garden and stuff. So if you are a history major, I'm open to your criticism, and you can talk to me. But I'm aware that this may not be exactly accurate or academically so and so. But just give you some brief idea, if you supposedly if you are beginners, right? And from 17th BC, before Christ century, as long as we have the record, there were some people living in Japan island, and we only, study from this around Nara to up to like Showa, and because this period from about 8th century to 20th century is most important in terms of gardens and architecture. So we don't have to worry about before or really contemporary era. And you can see I just put who ruled the country. So you just have to, and you don't have to memorize all of this. Okay, you don't worry about this number. You don't have to memorize 1,333 who started the government, and you don't have to worry about these details. But just understand that time to time, the ruler changed. Sometimes emperor ruled, sometimes before the kings ruled, and then emperor ruled, and group of nobles ruled. Then samurai, people like samurai or warrior started, and they make the new government, and finally, all the way down here, Japan became a democratic country, and so just give you some rough idea. Okay, and another important thing is capital and the government wasn't always the same place. Okay, if we talk about the capital, Kyoto was capital in this blue area. Okay, from 794 until 1867. Okay, Kyoto was capital, but the government moved around. Like in Kamakura period, the government moved to Kamakura near Tokyo, but still emperor was here. So as long as emperor lived here in Kyoto, we consider the capital was Kyoto. Okay? But we don't have any legal, law or regulation to decide where is the capital. Just people think that Kyoto was capital in that time, and many people think Tokyo is capital right now. But there is no official, regulation or anything. Okay? And there is a rumor that Kyoto people still think Kyoto is the capital even now. But you can think that way, no problem. There is no law. And also, another important thing in the history is what kind of international influence we got. And of course, in the very beginning, we learned everything by, from Chinese people and by way of Korean people, and maybe those information came all the way from Indian, like Buddhism came from India by way of China and Korea, and came to Japan, and also, via the Silk Road, a lot of, Arabian culture and maybe European culture came in ancient time, right? But because of the geographical situation, like you just said, it's surrounded by the ocean and it's kind of difficult to visit Japan. It was difficult to visit Japan, so the country was almost like closed with some small contact here and there. But again, in 16th century, some European people came to bring in more new things, like Christianity, Christian ideas and related culture. And, mainly Spanish people and Portuguese people came, and they gave us a lot of influence. But after that, Edo means Edo is the old name of Tokyo. But Edo government decided to stop inviting any more international people. They closed the country to keep the peaceful enclosed environment. But only Dutch people were allowed to come to Japan, and they came to at the end of Kyushu Island. There is a place called Nagasaki, and they were allowed to come to the specific area of Nagasaki and do some exporting and importing and things like that. So during that time, in Edo period, when we say foreign language, it meant Dutch. Now we all study English, but at that time, foreign language meant Dutch, for Japanese people. Okay, and we learned Western medical science, and we learned a lot of science from Dutch people. So I guess there are some Dutch people in this classroom, so I have to say thank you. Okay. Then the big influence of the United States came. Then they pushed us to open the country and start foreign affairs, and then the UK, British people, German people, and Russians, and they all came to give us a lot of influence. So after 1868, we almost forgot about our traditional culture, and everything was westernized at the time. We stopped wearing kimono and wear Western clothes, and we started to use chair and table, and we started to eat meat and everything. The big change, okay? And another big change happened after the World War II. Japan became like a colony of the United States for a short period, and we got so much influence. And I personally think we didn't have to get cultural influence too. We could get a political influence because we lost the war, but we also lost a lot about Japanese traditional culture at that time. Okay? Well, we can discuss these issues for the later lectures. And going back to the architectural things, since we got a lot of influence from many different people, and we, as you all know, we are very good at imitating or copying things and learning from other people and developing things in our way. So it happened in architecture too. And here is just one example, like Buddhist pagoda. We have a lot of Buddhist pagoda in China and also in Japan, and the shape looks really similar, right? And of course, once again, the size is different. We don't have to think about why. But anyway, size is different. But also, if you take a closer look, the shape also have some particular characteristics. And I guided many international tourists and foreign students in Japan, and in the beginning, many people cannot distinguish between Chinese temple and Japanese temple because they look similar. And also, it might be difficult to distinguish Buddhist temple and Shinto shrines. They look similar. Still many tourists says Heian Shrine is a Buddhist temple, and it's not, right? But many people think that big red gate. Do you know? Have you visited the Heian Shrine? A big red gate, Torii Gate. many international tourists think that that's a Buddhist temple, but it's not. And I understand it's difficult to distinguish those small detailed differences, but after the 12 lectures of this class, I hope all of you will somehow tell, maybe not 100%, but you can tell, okay, this should be Buddhist, this should be Zen temple, or this should be Shingon temple, or something like that, okay? So it's just a start. So this one, I wouldn't give you, I wouldn't ask you to answer today, but just keep that in mind. And from today, when you look around and see old houses and temples, and try to think what's the characteristic is, okay? Okay, and I'm just giving you one example of clear characteristics of Japanese architecture. And traditional houses and temples, the roof is very huge. If you compare to buildings in maybe European architecture, usually Japanese traditional architecture has huge sloped roof, and there's the reason. So I'd like you to think about it. Okay. And usually, since the roof is big, under the eaves there is a space, something like an in-between space. It's not exactly inside or outside, but something in between. We always, most of the traditional Japanese architecture, we have space like this, and it's functional. It's not just for design, but it was necessary. So, well, after living in Kyoto for a couple of months, you will notice probably, And also, if you travel many different places, I'd like you to pay attention to small differences between among the similar houses of different regions. For example, in this case, the left picture shows the townhouse called Machiya, like a series of townhouses in urban area. In Kyoto on the left side, and Takayama, which is in Gifu Prefecture. Gifu Prefecture is like a more colder area, a very snowy, colder area in middle of Japan. And some of you may go to Takayama. I understand the foreign student division will take international students to Takayama. Haven't you heard that thing? Or maybe it's over in September. I don't know. Maybe if you stay for 1 year, you may have to ask people in foreign student division, because they offer that travel trip every year to go to Takayama. Well, anyway, they look very similar, right? Basic plan is similar, but there are huge difference in detail. I sound funny, huge difference in detail. It sounds funny, but to me, the difference looks very clear. So when you notice such difference, please think why. Why? Everything has reason. Everything has function. Scientific reason. Okay. So I'm not giving you the answer, but in the course of this class, you will notice why they're different. What's the difference? Why they're different? Especially if I give you a hint, you can pay attention to the opening, entrance and opening, and how they like a contact to outside and inside. And in those houses, machiya or townhouses, I'm showing you the basic plan. Most of this enclosed area, like a black box, that shows one family or one household. Okay, and you have neighbor and another neighbor next to you, and very often you have neighbor on the back side too. And here's the street. Okay? And this is like a typical Kyoto townhouse. You have a very narrow and long, house. Okay? And in that house, the plan looks like this. Okay, this area is like the tatami mats or elevated floor, and where you can sleep or study or do some business and those more private things. And along those rooms, there is something called toriniwa. Toriniwa is like there is no exact English translation, so I put the kitchen yard. I said yard because there is no floor. You can the automobiles could go through the area if you wish. Not the big one, but it's still covered with roof. So it's like a half outside, half inside type of place. And in the picture showing that this kind of tori-niwa. And usually they have a kitchen. Here is a stove and water, and in this area they cook and eat, and if they have a business, they can work in that area. Right? This is like a typical plan. And at the end, they usually have a small garden. They're very small, sometimes just 3 meter by 3 meter or something like that, very tiny. But this yard or tsuboniwa is very, very important. So I'd like you to think why it's important. If they don't have that yard, what happens? It's totally functional. In this case, garden is not for fun, it's just perfectly functional. And your neighbor should have almost exactly same plan, at least in pattern. Like bedroom, kitchen, or I should say private, public. And they must have a yard in the same location. So even though there must be a wall between these yards, but if you look at many houses, this yard should continue. And there's a reason for that too. So nowadays, people can build whatever house you like. People have freedom, right? So nobody will tell you what kind of house you should build. But in the older time, everybody followed this rule. Otherwise, there was a danger. Okay, so following this pattern was very important. So think about why. And let's compare to the modern houses. Here's one typical example of modern apartment. Some of you might be living in the mansion. In Japanese, we call apartments mansion. But you may be living in one of those apartments. Here's one household. But if we analyze the plan layout, in this case, the layout looks like this. Right? And the next one is not exactly same plan, but it's like opposite, right? It's like a mirrored pattern. Let's take a look at this one again. It's not mirrored. Same. They are same, right? It's like private, public. But in modern time, it has opposite plan. And can you guess why? And maybe it's easy to guess why it's this way in modern apartment, but could be more difficult question. This one could be more difficult question. So let's discuss this in later lectures. It's going to be like your homework. Okay, think about why this pattern changed. Okay. All right. Let's look at materials too. Okay, I said a soft, fragile material. This is one typical example of old Japanese house, or in this case, this is a temple, but houses too. Usually it's made of all really fragile materials, like earth wall, okay, and tatami mat is made of dried straw or dried grass, and all the structures are such a thin, small section wood timbers, okay. And even the door, we don't have much walls. Mostly, instead of walls, we have many paper doors. And some people may be surprised. The house is made of paper? It's not toy doll's house. Actual human beings live in this house, and made of paper and earth. It looks very weak, right? It sounds very weak. And we do have many earthquakes, right? Some people think Kyoto doesn't have earthquake, but that's not true. The former president of Kyoto University, Dr. Oike, is the seismologist. He's an expert in, earthquake science, and he was sure that Kyoto is one of the biggest earthquake place. And there is a big earthquake. What do you call it? Gap, like a geographical gap right underneath Kyoto University. I'm sorry if you came to Kyoto believing that there is no earthquake, but we do have. But we still use such a very thin, fragile structure and earth wall and paper door. Why? Are we stupid? Why we didn't use concrete or stone or something, instead of such a fragile material? Why did they do that? The answer, because stone wasn't available or concrete wasn't available, is not the right answer. Well, concrete wasn't available at that time, but something like concrete, we did have something like concrete, with different materials, but same principle. Like ancient people used to have something like cement, mixture of soil and some alkaline material and water, and make some chemical reaction and make it harder. That's how we make concrete. And ancient people, Japanese people, also had the same method. So the answer, if any other thing wasn't available, is not true. They chose to use those fragile materials. They intentionally did that. So that could be the topic too. Okay. Another homework. Okay. If we look at a few more slides, if we look at some other things. Did anybody see this? Well, Kyoto University students may be familiar with this, but those who came in September or October, have you seen this by any chance? And did you know what they are for? And now they are gone, right? We don't have, this structure called the yuka. Yuka is no longer there, right? I haven't been to that area recently, but usually they demolish everything in September. And they rebuild those structure in usually the end of May or June. So those structure only last for 3 months in summer only. It's temporary. And can anybody explain what they are? Kyoto students? Do you know?
I don't know.
No? Haven't anybody been on that structure? No? Well, maybe not students. Well, in this case, I'm giving you the answer. These are extending veranda of restaurants. So only for summer, like an outdoor restaurant, only for summer. So you can go there and eat and drink and sometimes, see dancing and stuff like that. Okay. The question now is, why only in summer? Why it was necessary? Why do you want to do that? And probably not so many Kyoto University students had the experience of this, because those restaurants are usually very expensive. So usually I couldn't afford. One of my KUINEP students last year was working for one of those restaurants. Okay, and she told me that you should stop by sometimes, and I asked how much, and she said, well, the lunch for 8,000 yen and dinner for 30,000. And oh, I'm sorry, thank you for the invitation, but maybe no thanks. Right? Usually those restaurants are very expensive because it's special. The place is expensive. It's competitive and expensive. And why it's so popular in summer? Well, that's my other question. And probably the answer should be related to hot and humid summer, I guess. And this side is more related to cold winter. This picture is taken in the very north countryside of Kyoto Prefecture. And once again, these people working is KUINEP students last year. And I took them and make them work. But anyway, they were contributing to the local traditional life. I think, she's from France and he's from Spain and Hong Kong and many other countries. But anyway, what are they doing? If any of you can guess, I'll be impressed. What are they doing? What are they making? Yes? Yes. But particularly speaking, what are they making? In the top picture, they are cutting grass, right? Yes?
It's some kind of isolation that you put on the roof. So
yes, exactly. Oh, you know so well. Yeah. They cut the grass that could be waste otherwise, and put tie. Make the like a structure like this and dry it. Throughout the winter, and next spring they can use this material as a roof insulation. So we can see that's what's called thatched roof, or kayabukiyame in Japanese, thatched roof, the grass roof, in countryside only, not in the Kyoto city, but in countryside. But unfortunately, this kind of good roof is disappearing. So the only place you can see a lot of those houses are Miyama Village here, Miyama Village in north of Kyoto Prefecture, and also Shirakawa Village. It's near Takayama, and once again, the foreign student division's trip will take you to that village, I think. So ask them. But it's disappearing, and it's so sad because this is a perfectly good idea. Cutting grass will keep the environment cleaner and help the agriculture, right? And this is a free material. You don't have to purchase anything. Material is right there, around you. And everybody in the village used to help each other and build such house, right? So it takes no cost. Give any environmental impacts, and it rather save the environment, and everything was working very well, but this system is totally disappeared right now. And my big question is why, it's not possible now? Why it disappeared? Okay, the answer may take 12 weeks, But anyway, all of these things, particular traditional custom, should be related to the climate here. Just for your information, Kyoto has this kind of climate. Sometimes it goes down, below zero once in a while, and it goes to all the way up to 37. But I also experienced 38.6, I think 4 years ago or something. It could be very, very hot. And we have the worst thing is just being hot is okay. I used to live in hotter place in the United States, and the temperature could go over 40 degrees every day. But it was more comfortable than Kyoto because it was dry. But in Kyoto, it's hot and humid. It rains in summer, so it's very, very humid. If you are from like Singapore or Thailand, maybe that's nothing. You're used to it. But if you are from some northern part of Europe or something, the summer is horrible. Okay, especially from Mediterranean countries, it's horrible. But anyway, average humidity all around the year is 63%. It rains a lot. Okay, so we have to deal with this kind of climate. Okay, it also, if you are lucky, you could see some nice snow in winter, and the Ginkakuji is right there, so it's like a 10-minute walk or 15-minute walk, so I recommend you to visit. And do you know where this one is taken? Yeah, Kamo River, yeah, Demachi-Yanagi Delta, right? It's also, is it like a 10-minute walk, a 15-minute walk from here? It's right by the Demachi-Yanagi station, so if you have some extra free time, I really suggest you to go there. But probably it's too late to do this. This picture is taken in the middle of summer. During summer, many local people, especially kids, children, goes into water and swim or bathe. And usually grown-ups, college students don't swim in this area. But just once, when I was taking a group of American students, some girls went there in bikini, lay down, and the local people were really surprised and rolled. Well, you can do that if you like. But if you want to swim, well, seriously speaking, there is not many swimming pool available in Kyoto City. During summer vacation, Kyoto University swimming pool is open for students, but there's not much choice other than that. Hotel swimming pool should be very expensive. So many students goes to swim in Katsura River in Arashiyama. Arashiyama is like a west end of Kyoto City, but it's do that at your own risk, because I know that about 10 years ago some student died, while swimming. So it's not completely safe. But if you don't want to take a risk, swim there. It's very shallow, just like a 40 centimeters or something. But seriously speaking, remember this. In summer, Kyoto people likes to go into water a lot, and it affected their architectural and garden design too. So we are going to look at those things too. Okay, so finally, okay, I should wrap up. I needed to say this, in the early as possible because it's already happening. During spring and autumn, there is the special opening of temples and gardens. There are thousands of temples and shrines and gardens in Kyoto, but many of them are not open to public. But many of them open in limited time, like just typically twice a year or once a year. And that season is happening right now, so I'm going to tell you. So if you are interested in visiting, going to those gardens or temples, shrines, and here are some recommended areas. I cannot tell you all recommended areas because there are too many. But just I carefully selected these 4. So let's look at it. The first one is Shimogamo Shrine. That Temachi-yanagi, swimming area is here, right? And you can see the big forest behind. And in the forest is Shimogamo Shrine. And Shimogamo Shrine is a Shinto shrine. It's open every day, and it's free, so you can enter the site, without paying anything. And it's very recommendable. When you walk around the forest in the morning, there is a small creek and forest, and very quiet and a perfect place to take a walk. So it's a good place. But this limited time, from the end of October to the beginning of November, they also open the buildings. So this is a limited chance. And as long as I know, it didn't happen for the last a couple of years. So it doesn't happen every year. So this year may be the exclusive, opportunity. Okay. And all those buildings are like a national treasure. Yeah, at least an important cultural asset. National treasure is kokuho, important cultural asset, juyo bunkazai, a historically important thing. So I'd like you to take this chance. And the downside is usually Shimogamo Shrine is free, but for this special visit, I think you have to pay like 800 yen. So it's not free for the building, but it's an exclusive chance. And my second recommendation is not exactly one place, but 4 different places. And this one is free, but you have to make reservation. And there are 4 different places. 2 big gardens, imperial palaces here, Kyoto Imperial Palace and Sento Imperial Palace. And another thing is Katsura Imperial Villa is near Katsura campus, and called engineering faculty. And another Shugakuin Villa is near Shugakuin. Some of you might be living in Shugakuin International House, right? But about 20-minute walk from there to the mountainside. But you can't just go there. You have to make a reservation first. You have to go to the Imperial Palace first to make a reservation, then get the permission and go there. Okay. So the procedure is a little complicated, but here is some Japanese government's discrimination to domestic people. If you have a foreign passport, you can make a reservation easily. But if you have Japanese passport, you may have to be waiting for a long time. Okay, I really don't know why they do that. Like I have just visited Thailand, like 2 weeks ago or something, and I went to some royal palace and the Buddhist temples, and Thai people went there for free, and foreigners had to pay a lot of money. So this is the way they should do, right? But in Japan, they welcome foreigners first and make Japanese people wait. Many Japanese people complain, but here is the news. You have to consider, even if you are a Japanese person, if you are with foreigner, you can enter easier. Okay, so why don't we, use this opportunity, make friends in this class, make a group of like 3 international students and 1 Japanese person can join. Okay, the maximum group is 4 people. So 3 international students and 1 Japanese student. Make a group, make a reservation, and go there. So, right? Talk to each other and make arrangements. And otherwise, Japanese students have to wait. And there are there's a merit for international students too, because there is no English-speaking guide. You can borrow audio guide, but if you are with Japanese students, you can ask questions and have them translate, right? So, both have merit. And especially when you go there, the Kyoto Imperial Palace is easy to go, okay? But Shugakui and Katsura Villa is very, very difficult to find. And I would say it's almost impossible for you to go if you don't read Japanese signs and if you don't speak Japanese. So taking Japanese student is certainly help to go to Shugakui and Katsura, okay? In case you don't speak much Japanese. Okay? And make an arrangement and go there. And this is completely free. This is government run, so they don't take any admission fee or anything like that. Just reservation is complex. And you can make reservation on the internet, but if you apply on the internet, there's a lottery. So you have to take chance. But since you live in Kyoto, you can just go to the office and just sign up, and that's much easier. Okay? So don't go through the internet, but just go to the office. So the location of the office is number 2. Okay? And the third and fourth my recommendation is not free, but here's the Daitokuji temple at number 3. And the Daitokuji is not just one temple, but a group of temples. There are, I think, like 30 or 40 small temples and making one big temple complex. And each one, you have to pay admission fee for each one, like 500 yen or 400 yen something. But each temple have its own characteristic. Some are Christian temple, some are very strict Zen temple, some have beautiful architecture, some has very beautiful garden, and it worth visiting all of them. Not all of them are open, but some of them are open. And among those small temples, main temple called Daitokuji Honbo is the main temple, has opening during that period. So here, this is another exclusive opportunity. Okay. And if any of you are interested in joining the Zen meditation or tea ceremony, Daitokuji Temple offers a lot of things. Like they offer tea ceremony every month. I think every 28th of every month, except January and August or something. And you don't have to make a reservation. You just go there and wait in line and sign up. And you don't have to know how to do the tea ceremony or anything. They allow tourists. Just to experience. I suggest you shouldn't touch the utensils or stuff like that because they could be nervous. All the utensils and tea bowls and gadgets are museum pieces. So, I suggest you should, refrain from touching them unless you know much about tea ceremony. But, you still can join and see how real tea ceremony people do. It's an interesting experience. Many of small temples in Daitokuji offer Zen meditation session. You can just go there and sign up. Maybe you have to pay a little bit, like 1,000 yen or something, but you can do 1 hour to 2 hours meditation with, priests teaching you how to do. Okay? And at last, Ginkakuji Temple near Kyoto University. We are here, and it's 2 bus. Here is Nogakubumae, Kitashirakawa, Ginkakuji Michi. Yeah, 2 bus stops away, or 15-minute walk or something. Ginkakuji is usually open, but only gardens. But during this period, it's already started. October, November, and to the beginning of December, you can also enter the building. And in the building, there's the first study room in Japan, or many valuable rooms that's worth seeing. So if you like to see good architecture, I really recommend. Although it's a little bit expensive. Ginkakuji, you have to pay 500 yen usually, plus 1,000 yen for the building. So totally like 1,500 yen. It's a lot of money for students. I understand it's expensive, but if you're really interested in national treasure kind of architecture, that's a good place. And also, if you remember the picture I showed, this one, it has good view. Some people just go to Ginkakuji and come back, and doesn't know you can go up the hill. But you can go up the hill and see the old Kyoto city in a big landscape like this. So it's good too. Okay. All right. Yeah, if I start introducing those places, it takes forever, so I just stop right here. But if you are interested in, these websites have information in English. And unfortunately, here's a different discrimination. Japanese government discriminates domestic people, but those commercial websites discriminate foreign people. And there are so many information in Japanese only. It's so easy to find, where to go, how to get there in Japanese. But I try to search and find information in English, and it's really difficult to find. But these are some of the few examples that keep updating in English. So you can consult with those websites for more details. And especially this, have any of you visited Kyoto? No, not this one. Kyoto Prefecture International Center in JR Kyoto Station. Anybody? I heard. I've never been there myself, but I heard it's on 9th floor of Kyoto Station. Have you been there? No. And they give you information about tourism and living and everything in English. And I think in English, Chinese, and Korean, and several languages. Right. So, and now they also, you can also call them on the phone and ask, how to get to certain places, or how to purchase, where to purchase things and stuff. So it helps to remember this name, Kyoto Prefecture International Center. Kyoto City also offers a lot of international service at the Kyoto City International Community House, right? Anyway, okay, just at last, let me show you those 4 imperial palaces and villas. Since I'm sure you wouldn't allow me to be one of those, one Japanese person in 4 people's group, so I'm just point out some place to pay attention. And in Katsura Villa, you walk around for about 1 hour, and you are not allowed to go into the building, but you can take a peek, see through the window or opening to see inside, and there are a lot of interesting details like those. Right? And Sento Imperial Palace and Kyoto Imperial Palace look kind of similar in a way if you don't pay much attention to detail. But I'd like you to notice, here is the close-up picture of the beach like this, artificial beach like this. But if you take a closer look, all the pebbles here is cut completely round, no edges whatsoever. And in this case, it's just regular pebbles. And in this case, how there is a fascinating story behind it. Like they wanted to make sure all the pebbles in the garden is completely round, with no edges. So the emperor announced to the people, okay, if you bring in a perfectly round pebble, I'll give you 1 bag of rice. That's how the imperial family collected all these, thousands of, perfectly looking pebbles. And this story tells that's how much details all Japanese people, paid attention to. Really, they didn't compromise at all. They take whatever to get the perfect thing. But here is another important thing. If you want a round pebble, you can just grind and make it round, right? Take a regular rock and grind, and you can artificially make it round. But in Japanese way, in a traditional Japanese way, they didn't like to do artificial things like that. So they want to have naturally round rocks. That's how they paid a lot of, not money, but rice to collect those. So when you see those things, everything is natural. They're like this wood timber and wall and everything. Nothing is colored or painted. It looks brown, but it became brown after 300 years, right? So you have to notice those things. All Japanese people paid were so careful to choose naturally good-looking materials, right? And also the other thing is in Katsura Villa and Shugakuin Villa, it's a villa. So those villas are made so that the imperial family could feel like they are farmers. Although they are not farmers, right? But they sometimes want to feel like how it is to be a farmer and to see natural landscape and stuff. So in Shugakuin's case, they purchased all the land around the villa, so that nobody will build a new house or nobody do something bad to the landscape. They purchased, buy up all the land. So when you go to Shugakuin Villa's area, it takes like a 90 minutes walk, 90 minutes. The tour, guided tour, is like a 90 minutes, and you can see all the natural rice field and mountains and everything, and which is really good looking. It's in a way you can say it's artificial because the imperial family purchased the land and make it, and they even hire those peasants to work as they like. So all these peasants working there is like a government officials. But anyway, and there are pine trees along the street, and all those pine trees are so carefully taken care of. So those pine trees are called among the gardeners, we call it like a money-eating pine trees. That means pine trees that cost a lot, because pine tree, when we take care of pine trees, we do it by hand. We don't use any machine or even scissors. We do everything by fingers, right? So it takes about two experienced people for one day to take care of one pine tree. And there are thousands of pine trees. So how much they have to pay, you can do the math. So we call it money-taking pine trees. And we pay tax to maintain those facilities, and they don't allow us to, I don't know. Anyway, that's all for today. And I hope you get some idea of what kind of topics we are going to deal with. And if it's what you wanted to, if it was almost like what you were looking for, please take this class. And if it's different from what you expected, don't worry, and you can leave. I wouldn't be hurt because we don't have enough seats anyway. So for the last 20 minutes or so, please fill in this. Do you all have surveys, Steve? Survey? You don't have? Do you need? The survey should come back to me, okay? Don't put it in the box. Who needed a survey? You have and if you are not taking this class, you don't have to fill in the survey. You can leave now. And did everybody sign in? This is what foreign student division and Kyoto Kyoiku want you to do. So make sure you sign in. Okay? And if you are Kyoto University students, you also have to fill in a smaller form and put it in here before you go home. Ask me if you have any question about my question. Is everything clear? Do you understand my question? Feel free to ask if I'm quite clear now. You have questions? Yes. Oh, my name is Baha. Okay, I'm sorry, I have to explain. In the question, there is a